we're doing 5.5. And 5.5 is standard form. Standard form is always in the form ax plus by equals c, where a and b are coefficients. Okay? So you'll notice the x and y terms are on the left and the number or the constants on the right. There's some special things about standard form. First thing about standard form is there are no fractions. Second thing about standard form is that this leading coefficient should be positive. So a is always positive. We're going to talk more about that in a little bit, but now, what we use standard form for is to find x and y intercepts. All right, so an x-intercept is the point where it crosses the x-axis, and the y-intercept is the point where it crosses the y-axis. That makes sense, right? So, here's how we're going to do it today. First of all, to find the x-intercept, plug 0 in for y and solve. So, what I mean by that is, let's say I have 2x minus 4y equals 12. If I plug 0 in for y, so I have negative 4 times 0, what happens to this term? What's negative 4 times 0? 0. So that just drops out, doesn't it? And I'm left with 2x equals 12. How do I solve that? Divide by 2. And x would equal 6. Or actually, it's the point 6, 0 on the x-axis. No, it's not too hard. To find the y-intercept, we do the opposite. Plug 0 in for x, exactly, and solve. So if we have 2x minus 4y equals 12, use the same equation again. If I plug 0 in for x, I have 2 times 0. What happens to this first term? It drops out. So I have negative 4y equals 12. Divide by negative 4. And y equals negative 3. Or it's going to cross the y-axis at the point 0, negative 3. Because remember, we put 0 in for x, right? Yeah. Okay. So following that idea, we're going to do example number 1. Sounds good to me too. Example 1. This is what you are doing on your worksheet for 1 through 4. Find the x and y intercepts. And let's say we have the equation 3x minus y equals 6. So let's find our x-intercept first by plugging in 0 for y. Whatever you're finding, you're plugging it in for the opposite. So if I plug 0 in for y, I get 3x equals 6, right? And I call this the cover-up method, so I want you to think about it this way. If I plug 0 in for y, I can cover that up on my paper. I'm left with 3x equals 6. So I can just solve that, right? I get x equals 2, which is actually the point 2, 0, because I put 0 in for y. So then if I want the y-intercept, what am I going to cover up here? The 3x. I'm going to be left with negative y equals 6. Now I solve that by dividing by what? Negative 1. And y equals negative 6, or the point 0, negative 6, because I put a 0 in for x. You sure could. All right, let's do one more in the same example. So I'm just going to do a little wiggle line. Let's do another one. Find the x and y intercepts. Let's go with 2x minus 5y equals 10. 32. 2x minus 5y equals 10. So if I'm going to cover up my negative 5y, I put 0 in for y. Cover that up. I get 2x equals 10. Divide both sides by 2, and x equals 5, or the point 5, 0. Over here, I'm going to plug 0 in for x. It leaves me with negative 5y equals 10. Divide both sides by negative 5, and y equals negative 2, or the point 0, negative 2. Do we have any questions on that? That's what we're doing for the first 4. Doesn't seem too hard, right? 20, but trust me, it's super easy. I had some students last hour get it done in like less than 10 minutes. All right, so questions here? All right, let's go to example number 2 then. Example number 2. All right, this is 5 through 7. On your worksheet, it says draw a line with the given intercepts. And you're going to be given, let's say, it's written as x-intercept is at the point, let's say 3, 0, and the y-intercept is at 0, negative 5. All right, so I'm going to ask you to draw your coordinate plane. We're going to plot the point 3, 0. On the x-axis at 3, we're going to put a dot. So 1, 2, 3, put a dot. The y-intercept crosses the y-axis at 0, negative 5. So I'm going to put a dot at 0, negative 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now we connect our dots. Exactly. Awesome. All right. Let's do one more in that same example. So let's say we have an x-intercept at negative 4, 0, and a y-intercept at 0, negative 3. All right, so the first thing you're going to do on the worksheet, you're going to draw a coordinate plane. Where will I find the point negative 4, 0? Go back 4 on the? Good. 1, 2, 3, 4. Put a dot. Where will I find the y-intercept, 0, negative 3? Good. Down 3. 1, 2, 3. Put a dot. Now we connect the dots. Absolutely. I told you this worksheet's not going to be hard. So any questions so far? All right. Next thing we're going to talk about is graphing. And Ms. V, will you pass out a couple of these to everybody? Thank you. Two to each. Sounds great. While we're going over the steps. Thank you. Yeah, just go like 4 for like that section. You know what I mean? Yeah. All right, here we go. I want to talk about the steps for graphing. So you guys are up here still. To graph from standard form. Step 1, find x and y intercepts. Step 2, plot x and y intercepts. Step 3, we're going to connect our dots. So what we're doing is taking example 1 and example 2 and smashing them together. Okay? We're going to graph. So we're going to go ahead and go to example number 3, and we're going to put our first graph sticky in there. Make sure you go Y to the sky. Thank you. All right, so we are going to graph. Let's go with how about 2x minus 4y equals 12. Okay. All right, so the very first thing we have to do is find our intercept, right? So I want to start by finding the x-intercept, which means I'm covering up what? The y term. So I'm left with 2x equals 12. I'm going to divide both sides by 2, and I get x equals 6. So let's go right away to the x-axis and plot 6. What do you think? All right, so we're going to go over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and put a dot. Now, really, that's the point 60, but we're crossing it at 6. Now I want to know where it's going to cross the y-axis. So I'm going to cover up what up here? The 2x. So I'm left with negative 4y equals 12. To solve that, we divide by negative 4, the coefficient on y, and we get y equals what? Negative 3. So let's go ahead and plot negative 3 on the y-axis. 1, 2, 3. And connect them. Oh, I missed my little dot. There we go. Not too hard, right? I actually think graphing in standard form is easier than graphing in slope-intercept. I actually do. So, right, exactly, and you just connect them. It's a lot easier. Let's do example number 4. We'll do another one. So go ahead and put one more graph in there. Put your other graph in for example 4. Probably 7 or 8. Yes. Yes, there are. Except for 5, 6, and 7, where you have to draw them. All right, so this is example 4. All right, and I'm going to ask you to graph again. This is exactly what you need to do for 8, 9, and 10, or 8 through 10, you're graphing. All right, let's say you're given the equation, how about negative 5x plus 2y equals 10. Now, it's not exactly in standard form, but it's really close, right? It's got x's and y's on the left, so we're still going to graph it the same way. All right? So, right. For it to technically be standard form, it has to be positive. But think about it this way. If we change this and multiplied everything by a negative 1, I'd have a positive 5x and a negative 10. So when I divide, aren't I going to get the exact same thing? Right? So let's save just a little bit of work. And we're just going to do it right from this form where it's at. Okay? As long as your x's and y's are on this side, we can graph it from here. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is find that x-intercept by putting 0 in for y, or covering up 2y. So we have negative 5x equals 10. Yes, x equals negative 2. So on the x-axis, I go to negative 2 and put it on. Or that's the point negative 2, 0. Now to find where the y-axis, or where it crosses the y-axis, I'm going to cover up what? Good, negative 5x. So I have 2y equals 10. Divide both sides by 2, and y equals 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Connect your dots. Yeah. Yeah, it is a lot of mental math. Standard form is. All right, any questions? Okay, so now we're going to go back to regular paper for a moment. Next thing I want to talk about is, if you recall, we have a horizontal line. Is this an example? Nope, not yet. If I have a horizontal line, what slope did it have? 0. M equals 0, right? It's a line that goes side to side or on your horizon. If I had a line that's horizontal, what axis does it only cross through? The y-axis. So any equation that's a horizontal line will always be y, because it crosses through the y-axis, equals a number. And that means it's going to cross through at that number. Okay? If I have a vertical line, our slope was undefined. Right? It went up and down. And so what axis does a vertical line only cross through? But it only crosses through the x-axis, right? Which means when we write an equation for a vertical line, it is x equals a number. All right? So anytime you see x equals a number, it's a vertical line. Anytime you see y equals a number, it's a horizontal line. Okay? So here is example number 5. And this is going to be 11 through 14. Tell whether the graph of the line is vertical or horizontal. And all you're going to be given is, let's say, y equals 6. What kind of line do we have? Horizontal, exactly. It only goes through the y-axis. So you write down horizontal. Okay, if you get x equals -2, vertical. How about x equals 7? All right. You have 4 problems. That's all you have to do. Okay? So let's go to example 6. This gets even better. Example 6. And this is 15 through 18. Graph. X equals -2. So we're going to draw ourselves, and I actually have a graph on your paper for you. Draw myself a coordinate plane here. I'm going to go to where x equals -2, which is right here. And this only crosses through the x-axis. So it's a vertical line right there, and that's it. Right. How about if I have y equals 3? I'm going to draw my coordinate plane. I go to y equals 3, and what kind of line do I have? Horizontal, right through y equals 3. One more. Let's say I have, how about x equals 4? I go to where x equals 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. What kind of line am I going to have? Vertical. It only crosses through the x-axis. All right, questions on those? Should be pretty easy, right? Okay, last thing we have to talk about is where we actually started this whole lesson at, is writing it in standard form. Okay? All right, so I want to talk about the steps. To convert to standard form. All right. Step 1. If it's in point slope form, there's going to be parentheses. So what do you think we have to do first? Yeah, so we're going to put distribute. May not always have to do it, but I'm going to put it here in case it's in that form. We're going to distribute. Step 2. We're going to isolate y, which means we just put it into what kind of form? Y equals mx plus b, or slope-intercept, right? This got us to here, y equals mx plus b. All right, so step 3. Remember the first thing I told you is there can't be any fractions in standard form, right? So we're going to clear the fraction. Step 4, move the x term to the left. And step 5, make a positive. Now you're not going to have to do all of these steps all of the time, but the most difficult one, that's all the steps you would need. Okay, so let's start off with an easy one. So example number 7. I know. Change to standard form. And let's start off with an easy one. Let's say we have y equals 1/3 x plus 5. All right, so do we have any parentheses up there? All right, and y is already isolated, correct? Okay, so now what do we have to do? Clear the fraction by multiplying by what? Awesome. So I'm going to multiply everything by 3. So we have 3y equals, and here my 3's cancel, 1x plus 15. Very good. The next step says to move the x term to the left. How do I do that? What is x doing to the 15? It's adding, so we got to subtract it. Very good. Can I combine my negative x and 3y together? They are not like terms, so I have negative x plus 3y equals 15. And then what's the very last thing we have to do? We have to make a positive. So we're going to multiply everything by negative 1. So negative 1 times negative x is positive 1x. Negative 1 times 3y is negative 3y. And negative 1 times 15 is negative 15. This is in standard form. That's our final answer. Then if we wanted to, we could find our intercepts or use it to graph or whatever we wanted to do. All right? Let's try. It's not that hard. I agree. Let's try another one. Example number 8. This will be our last one, and we'll get the worksheet out to you. Example number 8. So this is going to cover 19 and 20. Convert to standard form. And let's say I have y minus 3 equals negative 2 times x plus 1. All right, you guys, you tell me what's the very first thing we should do. Yeah, distribute and isolate. So that's what we start with. So we have y minus 3 equals negative 2 times x, negative 2x. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. To isolate, Seth, what do we have to do? Good. Add 3 to both sides. Good job. So I have y equals negative 2x. Negative 2 plus 3 is positive 1. All right. Now what do I need to do to get this into standard form? Do I have to clear the fraction? So now what? Move the x term to the left. It's a negative 2x, so we add 2x. If I add 2x to this side, I have to add 2x to this side. I have 2x plus y equals 1. Is my a positive? Then I'm done. Okay? Any questions? No questions? You guys ready for your worksheet? I'm going to guess if you guys get right to work, you're going to have this done before the end of the hour. It is seriously so easy.